Alrighty, so we're here at Infamous Brewing, and I'm here with John May from Keller Williams today. He's a local real estate agent, and we're going to talk about home inspections and why that's important for homeowners. John, thank you for being here today.
You're welcome, Steve. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. And let me just kind of start this off with, so why is a home inspection important? Why should a homeowner get a home inspection?
Steve, as you know, this is the largest investment most people are ever going to make. Whether it's their first home or second home, third home, whatever the case may be. Absolutely knowing the condition of the components of the home are critical to not putting yourself in a situation where you're going to be out of pocket by lots of money in a very short period of time. So it's critical that everybody gets an inspection on a home, regardless of really how many times you've ever purchased a home, because there are things that, you know, unless you are a roofing professional, an electrician, a plumber, unless you're all of these things, there's no way that you can truly know the full condition of all those major components.
Right.
So critical to get this done.
Makes perfect sense. So in your experience, is there ever a time when it's appropriate for a homeowner not to get an inspection?
No.
Okay.
I don't care if you're an investor and you're going to be, tearing the place down for the most part, you still need to get a foundation inspection. Right? If you're an investor and you're going to fix and flip, you still need to know the condition of the roof, siding, major mechanicals, air conditioning, hot water heater, electrical systems, plumbing systems, right? So there are 6 major components of an home inspection. Structural systems, which include the slab, the roof construction. And when I say the roof, so many times I mean the shingles on the outside, right? But also the construction of the roof. Then you've got electrical systems, and you know how critical that is. You certainly don't want to hurt somebody, family member, yourself, start a fire, because you didn't check an electrical system that obviously had some bad wiring. Heating, air conditioning, you want to make sure, especially in the great state of Texas, you've got a good AC working, right? And then, we still got snow this year again, so you want to make sure that you've got your heater working fine. And then plumbing, right? You don't want to start off living in a home with toilets that may not work, a hot water heater, dishwasher, water for the dishwasher. All those things are very, very important. And then you'll check the appliances, and I don't mean the refrigerator and the washer and dryer. What typically is inspected would be an oven, a dishwasher, a microwave, range hood, things like that. And then optional systems like a sprinkler system outside. And you can pay for a swimming pool, you can pay separately for, various things like that. But let me say, it is critical, in my opinion, that a realtor goes to the inspection.
I was just going to ask you. So how does the inspection work?
Well, you obviously, either the buyer client either has a relationship with an inspector, or they rely on their realtor partner to help line up an inspection. And then it usually takes a day or two to get that inspection lined up to happen. You obviously need to do that within your option period, which is typically 7 days. So if you can get your inspection done on day 2 and give yourself enough time for the inspector to get to the home, inspect the home, and then get that report to you the next day, right? So now you're rolling into day 3, and you still need a couple days potentially to negotiate repairs that you'd like for the seller to do. And sometimes you may need to have a professional come out to verify what the inspector has said. Right? An inspector is not a professional electrician, is not a professional plumber, is not a roofer, right? That is not what the inspector does. He raises the red flag, right? I'm concerned, I see something, it's a visual inspection. I see something that doesn't look right. or he's used a tester to test an electrical outlet. And then he'll write down on his report, hey, I suggest having a professional come out to take a look at this particular system.
Right.
So you need a little time, right? You don't want to wait till the last second, because then you're rushing everybody. You're rushing a home seller, to respond. So if a option period ends at 5 o'clock on a Thursday, you don't want to wait until that morning to send that out for this, because typically a seller is going to say no, right? Like there's just too much pressure, not enough time.
Yeah.
Give the seller time to absorb what they're seeing, because they've got a beautiful baby, and you're telling them that their baby's not so beautiful.
That's a good
And
point.
that's a tough pill to swallow, especially when you've been living in that home for a long time.
Yep.
So I think it is critical for the realtor to go to the summary of the inspection.
Now,
right?
What's the summary of the inspection?
So
what does that mean?
an inspection typically starts 1 or 2 times of the day, and inspectors can usually do about 2 inspections a day. So they either start at 9 a.m. and they're done by about noon, or they start at 1, they're done by about 4 o'clock. And so if your inspector provides the opportunity to go to the home where the inspection has just occurred and go through the summary of the findings on site, so that you can ask questions. So I'm not a professional plumber or electrician, but I've done this enough times that I am pretty familiar, right? So I need to be able to ask questions of the inspector. You've called out something on the inspection report that I'm not familiar with. Show it to me. Let me physically see it, so that I can share with my buyers exactly what that means. I would prefer for the buyers to also be at the inspection summary, if they can. If they're out of state, if they're traveling for some bizarre reason, I'm good enough to go and attend that summary and understand what's going on. And even before the inspector gets the printed version to us, I can pretty much tell what the major things that we're going to be looking for as compensation or repair requests. So critical for the agent to be there, in my opinion. And I know lots and lots and lots of, unfortunately, agents who don't go at all. They allow the inspection report, which is about 27 pages. I got one right here, about 27 pages long. And just send that to the buyer. And then the buyer is left to interpret what all these things mean. So I got an example. Steve, when somebody says, hey man, you've got a backflow preventer that is missing, does that sound like a big deal to you?
Would have no idea what that meant.
So a backflow preventer is that little piece that you screw onto your outdoor faucet, so that when you're using the water hose and you turn it off, water doesn't come back up and get into the water system right there. Well, that piece is about $1.50. Is that a big deal on an inspection report? No. Do we want to have it done? Sure, but we don't want to waste a valuable request of a seller on something so minor. Let's save our requests for the big things: roof, foundations, windows, plumbing, electrical,
so as a
HVAC.
Realtor, as a realtor, you're looking at those major components to see if there's things that you need to negotiate with the seller.
I'm looking at all the components, even the weird ones that pop up, right? Because there's always some weird thing that we just like, man, I don't even know how to handle that. So I want the seller to work on that for me, or at least present it to the seller to have them respond to us with something. Yes, no, maybe, whatever the case is. And sometimes a seller will suggest a monetary value in lieu of getting the actual repairs done, depending upon their circumstances, right? If it's a grandmother who's leaving to go out of state with their kids, they may not have time, money, energy, availability. So there is potentially a financial component to that. And so I have to know, generally speaking, how some of those costs may be.
Is that part of the inspection report, or you're having to figure that out as your
I'm
experience?
figuring that out on my own through experience,
so
right? The
experience
inspector
tells you this is what's
cannot
gonna-
tell
okay.
us
Got it.
any kind of a value. All they can do is raise the red flag,
Okay.
have an alert to us that something is going on here that doesn't seem right. Right? So we really need somebody to help try to interpret that, and then somebody who's got the ability to call and ask questions, right? So if I need to call an electrician or a plumber, I can send this report, part of this report, out to one of them and say, what does this mean? How much would this cost to replace, right?
Right.
But I know the general values of a roof or a shingles, getting a hot water heater replaced, and you don't want to skip an inspection for any reason because there are so many expensive, everything's expensive right now. The hot water heater is now, all the rules have changed, upgraded, right? So you now need a bigger hot water heater than we've used in the past 20, 30 years, right? So your closet may need to be a little bit bigger, right? HVAC systems, boy, those have come a long way. And electrical components in the electrical system, every single year, the rules or the recommendations, the code, the electrical code changes every single year. Is there any way for you to upgrade your house every single year with arc fault, disruptors and GFCIs from a home that is older than when that was in place? No, right? You're not going to every year try to upgrade your home to today's code.
Yeah.
Not possible. But you have to know that when the inspector says in his report that there's no AFCI arc fault circuit interrupter in this 1945 built home in Central Austin or off the Lakeway golf course, maybe not that old in Lakeway, but
It's getting close.
you need to make sure that you understand that the inspector is going to suggest things for today's code.
Yeah.
That may not be appropriate for an older home. The desire is, I want a home that is working as intended for the year that it was built.
Okay.
That is, I tell all my clients, first thing before we get involved in this, we're not trying to force the seller to upgrade the house. We want the house delivered in an appropriate state so that it is working as intended. If you, Mr. Buyer, wants to upgrade something, cool. But let's make sure we understand.
Right,
Now,
right.
and sometimes, the inspector will say, well, the HVAC system is on its last legs, right?
Yeah.
It's 15 years old. Well, we all know that an HVAC system can work 20, 25 years. So what is it that we really are concerned about? What is it that we really need to spend our time working with the seller about? We don't want them to dig their heels in. We don't want to ask them. I've had Californians, because they do it a little differently, come to town and you take that whole inspection report, the whole thing, all 27, 29 pages of it, and just give it to the seller and say,
Fix it.
fix it. Well, that doesn't work in Texas. So you got to know what's going on, and it's critically important to have the home inspected and to have somebody who, if at all possible, have somebody go to that summary.
Yep.
And then, a buyer is going to go through this report and, what is that? What is this? What does this mean? And hopefully your agent's able to help describe that.
The buyer should not attend the summary if they can, but they should not be there when the inspection.
They can, absolutely.
So it doesn't matter?
Does not matter if the buyer wants to be there
Doesn't
that
upset
whole
the
time.
inspectors?
We don't bother the inspector.
Okay.
Right? The inspector, every time, if you're hitting him on the shoulder while he's checking outlets, he's going to be like, stop.
Yeah.
Right? So no, you can be there. That's your time frame. You've negotiated that time frame, 3-4 hours with the seller to have the inspection, and you and a friend or anybody you want, right? If you are already concerned about, maybe you already knew beforehand that the AC was broken. Maybe you already knew beforehand the carpets were going to need to be replaced. Maybe you already knew beforehand something was wrong. You can certainly have a professional join you during that inspection time frame, which is obviously within your option period. At the at the end of the option period, you need to make sure that you understand what is going right and wrong with the home, and if it's still a home that you want to purchase. And if you got to back out, you got to back out.
Right. But that inspection appointment is an appointed time for the buyer, so the buyer can be there and could bring a contractor if they wanted to at that time, try to assess what it was going to cost.
And always just relay that information to your partner agent, right? The listing agent. Hey, sense. I'm going to bring my best friend who's a roofer. I'm going to bring my my contractor who's an electrician. I'm going to bring my contractor who does flooring, right? Because we're going to go ahead and take measurements at that time.
Okay.
So we'll take measurements. I'm going to bring my painter because we're going to want to repaint this whole house. Bring them. Communicate effectively with your listing agent so that everybody's understanding.
Right.
And generally speaking, the homeowner will leave.
Okay.
So gives you the opportunity to talk in earnest. For me to talk with you in earnest about what I'm seeing and how we may want to negotiate that. And of course, with cameras and all the things in homes nowadays, we try to keep that to a dull roar and go outside and talk about that, a little bit at a coffee shop or outside, whatever the case may be. Come up with a game plan. I usually like to wait until the next day to get the inspection report to verify the things that I've already taken notes of while I was at my summary. And then verify with the seller, the buyer, with what they are freaked out by, what they're really concerned, because every buyer has, a story. Oh man, my brother bought a house 6 months into it, the AC went out. We had that home warranty that we had purchased or negotiated with the seller, so that was repaired. But, you want to try to keep that down, right? Because things will break, especially in an older home. But
so do home inspectors do energy efficiency? Do they look at energy efficiency as well?
They can.
Okay. Does it take a specialized home inspector, or can that just be a request you make?
You need to know who your home inspection company is and what services they provide. Okay. So I need two things from my home inspector for my work, right? I need somebody who can evaluate the foundation, and they have a special tool, kind of looks like a big octopus, right? And they put the main component of the machine right in the middle of what they would call the high point in the house, and use these little tentacles with measuring tools on them, right? And they can tell if the foundation has any fluctuation throughout the house. That's really important for me to know.
Interesting.
Right? Because a piece of hard ceramic tile in a kitchen can snap easily, right? They're unforgiving.
Right.
Ceramic tile is unforgiving. So if a house just moves normally, you could snap some tiles. Well, does that mean the house foundation is failing, or does that just mean that the tile may be older, or maybe they didn't put enough of the sealant underneath the tile, and maybe it got dried up and somebody stepped on it and it snapped. So I need the foundation to be done, and I also want my inspector to use a thermal imaging gun so that they can look for water that has come into a wall or a ceiling.
Interesting.
Or they can use a thermal imaging gun to check an electrical panel to see if it's overheating in a various area.
Interesting.
Right?
Okay.
But how important would it be to know that there's water that's come from a roof from some reason,
right?
And is sitting on. No, it does not. You can't. People try to paint it.
Yeah.
All kinds of things. Well, there's water damage. What's going to happen with that water damage?
Yeah.
There could be some mold, right? And we don't use that word lightly in Texas, of course.
Yeah.
But you need to know, and so get an inspector who's going to use those tools. Get an inspector who's okay with you coming to the summary, and get an inspector who's willing to go over the report with you and not just give you some lame, everything is fine. I have had that as well. House is great. Here you go. House is great. No. No. Let's break this down a little bit. So,
and as a lender, just make an interjection here. home buyers, be aware, the home inspection is not the same as the appraisal. So the appraisal is something the lender orders. And what we're doing with the appraisal is we're getting a market value. We are not inspecting the property. Now, sometimes the appraiser will inspect some of the components, like if something's not working, if the HVAC is not working and it's 100 degrees outside and they walk in and they go, oh my gosh, we got a problem. Well, that home's not, we as lenders, we're not going to lend on that home until it gets repaired. Yeah. So, I mean, that level of inspection does happen, but it's nothing like what you're talking about.
No, we're talking about the doorknobs. Do all the doorknobs lock? Do all the little switches on the microwave work?
And we can't tell you from an appraiser standpoint. The appraiser can't tell you they can't tell you the age. They can't tell you if something's failing. They can only tell you it has failed.
Right.
So that's a huge difference.
Well, so you want to get ahead of that, right? The appraisal will come later, after the inspection. Inspection comes typically within the first 7 days after you go into contract. The appraisal will happen a couple of weeks after. So you need to know, if this is a VA loan, for example, you can't have open electrical junctions, right? You can't have unfinished walls open, like, I don't mean by painted, but like unfinished big holes in a wall. The flooring has to be in a certain condition, right? The heater, and maybe the AC, I'm not sure with a VA.
In Texas, AC, yeah.
So in Texas,
and plumbing, that's the other one they look at, is you do all the faucets work, do the commodes work.
And they'll probably look at the roof. Right, as well as visual, right? As well as, an inspection company and a roofing company. And of course, they can do that from satellites now. They can look at that from a satellite, look at that roof real close. It's like, wow. So that's kind of cool. But yes, an appraisal is, going to look at the comparables of the neighborhood roughly to just make sure that the bank isn't over-lending. You can answer that a lot more.
Didn't mean to get you off topic.
That's right.
It's something I do get asked pretty great. Well, you're doing an appraisal. Why do I have to get a home inspection?
You're right, and I have heard that a couple of times as well. So good delineation, absolutely.
Well, do you have some horror stories for us? So tell us examples of either winning an inspection, like save the bacon, or it's like, anyway, you know where I'm going.
Sure. Well, just recently, we had an inspection done on a home up in Round Rock. 3,500 square foot home, beautiful home, incredibly decorated, clean, looked great. I walked in, and as an agent, I'm like, wow, this thing hits all the marks. Beautiful. Well, when the inspector came, he alerted me that most, like 90% of the windows had started to lose, the gas inside, losing their seal. Well, I couldn't see that.
Cloudy, weren't they? Yeah.
They weren't cloudy yet.
But they would have become.
Weren't cloudy yet. There was no moisture inside yet. But apparently he could see some little strata lines that I couldn't see initially. Well, then you have a window company come out. They do a review, and lo and behold, $16,000. Is the estimate to replace windows.
Wow.
Right? And that's on a fairly low end, right? It could be a lot more, right? So that scared us. And we had to negotiate with the seller. I know you're trying to get out of here and go visit with your kids in North Carolina, but my clients are gonna have to deal with windows when they go to sell this house 3, 5, 10 years, right? And are we prepared for a $16,000, $20,000 bill at that time? Same thing with a roof. Just had a roof inspected. Yes, the roof is 12 years old. Just outside that window that an insurance company would prefer, right? They now want 10 years and younger. Yeah. You can talk about that all day long, right? It bothers me quite a bit. But the roof is 14 years old. It's still got plenty of life on it, right? So we now may need to prove that, right? You get a roofer to come out, give us an evaluation of the longevity of this roof. You can turn a letter in potentially to some insurance companies to get a different kind of coverage.
Right.
I think I answered that question.
So have you ever had an inspection bust a deal?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the seller doesn't want to do it, right? So $20,000 in windows, right? Seller's like, no way.
So
I'm not going to do it.
How did that seller?
With this particular situation, we determined that it was okay to forego that request. The seller just wasn't going to do it. The house was priced well enough at the beginning. We knew it was a fairly good deal to start with.
Right.
We knew they were motivated to sell. She had done a wonderful job of getting the home. You know, it really is going to be an easy investment for my buyer to have a tenant move in.
Okay.
And we'll deal with those windows later on down the road. But that was my client's choice. All the other homes that we were looking at were $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 more. So what makes sense?
That's where a good experienced agent makes a world of difference, because I can imagine a buyer getting that report and going, oh my gosh, and the whole deal just collapsing.
Yeah.
Rather than you being able to say, you've got a good deal here.
Yeah.
You know,
which is why it's so important to be, as an agent, be involved in the first, not only are you there to show the home the first time, right? And my job as a realtor is to walk through that home while my clients are getting a vibe, right? Do they love this vibe, this feel? I'm looking around for problems.
Yeah.
That's my job.
Yeah.
And so, critical to be involved in that process through the option period, through the inspection, make sure everybody understands exactly what's going on with the home. And that you can get sued if you disregard or notice something and don't say something.
Interesting.
Right? So you need to do your due diligence.
Yeah.
Make sure you're protecting the client at all costs, best you can, right? Again, I'm not a professional roofer, electrician, but I've seen enough, and when my inspector says, hey, the AC is not cooling to the appropriate, temperature differential, we need to get it serviced at a minimum.
Interesting. Okay. Well, you got any final words of wisdom for us?
Man, get a home inspection. There's nothing else. Get a home inspection. Incredibly important. A realtor should be able to help guide you through this process, and don't get too freaked out by seeing that report up front, because there's a lot of words, terminology, components that you don't understand. So you really need somebody who you can kind of talk to about what those are, and is it important? Is it a backflow preventer that I can buy for $1.50 at Home Depot? That sounds ominous, or is there something that's truly ominous going on with this home? So yeah, thank you, Steve, for allowing me to talk about what I would consider to be probably, besides getting the home under contract, probably the second most important thing that a buyer's agent can do. Get through an inspection and determine what needs to happen.
Very well said. It's a good wrap. And that's what we do here at the Loan Table. We try to make things easy to understand. So thank you for joining me today.
I appreciate it. Absolutely.
Cheers.
Cheers, my friend.